Hello, this is Susan Hintz-Epstein, also known as Susan of the North when I'm doing psychic reading, with the runes of the day for the week ahead. First rune I drew for Sunday, the 29th, is Kenaj. Kenaj is the rune of knowledge. It's the fire torch. It is everything that we know, and it is everything that we think we know. And during my walk today, I was looking for omens in nature, and often I look for rune shapes. And in the deadfall of branches along the road today, I saw Kenaj emerge this way, which points out to me that it is a rune of unknowing. There are times in our life when we have to consider our thoughts, our beliefs, what we think about something, and admit that our conditioning is wrong. I laugh at it myself because I have to do this all the time. But it came to me a few years ago that this backwards is not the rune of ignorance, but also a rune of a time to unlearn, a time to realize when ideas that no longer serve themselves are time to go. And as I was walking home on the walk today, I saw the rune this way. And this is like the new ideas coming in. These are the ones to listen to and to appreciate. So if you're receiving a download of new ideas today, this is a wonderful rune to realize that you're in the right flow. You are in synchronicity with the flow of the weave, of weird. In the Norse mythology and the Norns who take care of it, weird, W-Y-R-D is the spelling. It means our destiny. It is our fate. It is ourselves when we turn to meet ourselves. So that's another thought for today. And for Monday, the 30th of December, as we're coming toward the close of the year, and we have drawn the rune Fehu Reversed. Fehu Reversed is an interesting rune too, because a lot of times, there's so much talk in the spiritual communities these days about manifesting and think about what you want and it will come. And there's a lot of truth to that, but the opposite is also true. If you have a fear that what you need won't be there for you, you push away what you need, right? Fehu is the rune in the traditional meaning is wealth and cattle. But when you look beyond that, it's really about having everything that you need for your life. And sometimes we have more than we need. Sometimes we have less or feel we have less than we need. And it could be time to take stock. If you have shelter, if you have food, if you have heat in the wintertime, if you have what you need to survive, you have everything that you need. You might want more, but then it's time to think about how you can build upon what you have in order to thrive. And there's nothing wrong with wealth or poverty in and of itself. They're all valuable life experiences. Some people come into a life to experience poverty, and they might, as a side issue of that, learn how generous their neighbors are. You know, People might come in to experience wealth, and they might be the biggest tightwads in the world. I mean, it's all relative. There are wealthy who share, and there are poor who are tight. It's not a universal rule, but I'm just, pointing this out to point out the rich diversity within life experiences of all of us. And many of us tend to go around with one thought in our head, and that's from our point of view. Like, why don't the poor work? Why don't they feed themselves? Why don't they? Why don't they? Why don't they? All based upon our judgmentality when we don't know what they're going through. Maybe some of them are suffering from mental illness and can't hold the job because the instability is too hard for them. I've had relatives like that. I believe, this is my opinion, but I believe that we should develop a sense of compassion, that for the grace of God, there go, but there go I. It's just such a wonderful thing to be able to put yourself in another person's shoes and have the freedom to help or pray for or whatever. So when we have this rune reversed, it can also speak to a lot of the fears that are going on in the human collective right now. The world is in a state of polarity. It's just a really messed up way to be, and we need to figure out how to find the bridge. How do we find the bridge between two states of being? It's not all black and all white. There's so many shades of gray. So to turn this rune around, I'm going to go back to yesterday's example and say that sometimes we have to let go of what we think we know in order to perceive a greater reality. And in that acceptance, we can develop the faith to know that this too shall pass, this will right itself. And in the doing of that, sometimes we become more resilient and more stronger. Now, for Tuesday, the rune of choice, and I'm drawing these here. I'm not picking them randomly. Well, I'm picking them randomly. I'm not picking them purposefully. Oh my goodness, this is a beautiful one to get. On Tuesday, the rune is Gabo, the gift. Okay, there's a lot that could be said here. One rune specialist interprets this rune as generous gifting. How else did he phrase it? I'm trying to think of his words. Um, he was talking about giving without any expectation of return. But my interpretation of this rune is a little bit different because everything has to be paid for in one way or another. And so I think it's a rune of reciprocity. It might not be that you have to pay the guy who helped you today because he was paying it forward. But in your paying it forward, maybe you avoid a karmic debt. I don't look at this rune with any bad eyes at all. It's always a beneficial rune. But I don't want to just leave a loophole that, for the people who always take and never give. What is there to share in the situation? I'm going to leave you with that thought today. What is there to share? What is there to help you on your road? What is there you can do to help someone else on their road? We're in this human thing from birth to death, and certainly, not people who go out of their way to be nutty helping others. I don't mean that either. If there is a way you can help, you help. If there's not, you let the person who can. And that's all right too. This is Gabo. This is for Tuesday, the 31st. And maybe that's a good way to come into the new year. This attitude of reciprocity and everybody benefits in some way or another. It doesn't have to be so polarized between the extremely wealthy and the extreme poor. For the brand new year, I'm digging really deep here. And I'm coming up with, ah, this rune is Elhaj, elk's edge. In some interpretations, this is protection, but I think it's the protection that comes from conscious being. Today I've drawn it reversed, and my interpretations vary a little bit from some of the interpretations other people give, just because I put so many associations with them. In some interpretations, this means stagnation. You're not very conscious. You could be even kind of stupid. But this rune comes from an older rune that looked like a tree. It had the three at the top and the three at the bottom. So it was like a double-sided symbol. I look at this when I'm in a low emotional state. I'm not as conscious, true, as when I'm in a good state of mind. But when I'm in a low emotional state or a physically tired state, it helps me to go to the root. If you work with energy and you walk in a forest at night or during a snowstorm, and you can feel the trees are sleeping. Their energy is centered in their roots. On a bright sunny day, you walk in the same forest and you can feel the energy of the trees at the crown. Their energy is centered in the crown, taking in energy from the sun. So they turn their energy toward whatever is necessary for them at that time to feed, to survive. And they might be like this, they might be like this. I think it's important to note that we go through different states of being, and the more fluid that we can be in our self understanding and in managing our energy body from root to crown and crown to root, we can more easily flow with states that are uncomfortable. So many times our energy may be depressed, it might be angry, it might be feeling unworthy, it might be self loathing, it might be, positive, joyful energy. But just knowing where you are at in your emotional frequency, this rune reversed can tell you that it is a time to rest. Now, maybe after the joyful partying that so many people will be doing on New Year's Eve, you will need to rest on New Year's Day because your head will hurt if you don't. So that is the rune for the first of the year. I'm taking a little longer sometimes because I write these down. Then I can come back to them and refer to them to see how my week was going in accord with what runes I drew. So let's look at Thursday, the 2nd of January. We are drawing, we are drawing, we are drawing. Perthrow. Perthrow is the rune of luck, lottery, games of chance. If you feel lucky, today might be the day you want to play the lottery. But it has a deeper connotation. In the Norse mythology, this is the rune for the Norns. The Norns are the ones who govern fate, chance, and destiny. If you are, like me, a person who's very tapped into the soul and very tapped into the underlying stories and scope of the subconscious, making your subconscious conscious, that's another thing I've been writing about. But it's about how are you attuned to your own weird? How are you attuned to your own destiny? Are you one who can be introverted at times, who can mix the awareness of the outer world and the inner world to learn more about yourself and your role and your purpose in life? So this is a good rune for that. This is for Thursday, the 2nd of January. So if you're into that kind of stuff, maybe you want to do a little self-introspection, self-examination, self-analysis, and decide if you want to make any resolutions for yourself this year. It's not a casual thing. It's looking deeply at your life and at how the patterns of your life are flowing and deciding what maybe you want to do for yourself in order to build upon things that make you feel good, expand your consciousness, new learning, or tracking old habits that no longer serve you. This is Perthrow for Thursday, the 2nd of January. For Friday, the 3rd, we are rolling into, okay, this is Lagouge. Lagouge is reversed today, which means that in some aspect, the flow of the day is stuck, stopped. Possibly the mood is frozen and you need to jumpstart, self-examine to jumpstart, or things are just going to go out of whack today. This can be all possible interpretations of this rune. When you're in the flow and you're passionate and you're excited about something, life flows more freely. When the river is dammed up and we are in sort of where I live anyway, we're in sort of a wintry melt kind of a day where I looked at the river and parts of it were flowing rapidly and parts of it were still icy. And I thought, how like emotion that is, If we are able to accept and honor what we are feeling, thinking, and feeling, that we can be freer in our emotions. Like Brene Brown talks about vulnerability and being authentic. And all of this comes from a willingness to be in truth with yourself. I'm feeling this way today. I'm feeling stuck because I'm frustrated because I was trying to accomplish such and such a thing and I met obstacles at every turn. Okay, we get those days, they happen. So just being in touch with how you're feeling, how you're flowing, and this too, like the rune we had Fehu reversed and we had Elhaj reversed this week. This too is a season where things are dammed up and slowing down and we're still waiting for spring. I mean, I do that before winter even starts because at my age I just feel cold all the time. At any rate, so that was the rune for Friday. And the final rune for Saturday, the 4th of January. We're talking about the new year already, my goodness. And I have drawn the rune Gar. Gar is Odin's spear. Odin in the Norse mythology chooses who will die so that he will get the warriors for Valhalla at the end time when he has to have the best warriors to fight the characters of the mythology that will be trying to destroy the world. So, what do we have? We have Fenris, the wolf of greed, or the wolf of destruction. We have Hela, the goddess of death, who oversees Helheim and the souls that live there. And we have Jormungand, the Midgard serpent. And all of the warriors from Asgard will be fighting these beings. Now, I'm not always sure that the interpretation is as bare bones as they give it. This rune, if you remember earlier in the week, we drew Gar. And there is another rune that is like this little square that Gabo, I mean, superimposes upon, called Inguj. And Inguj is about planting the seed, a time of gestation. So this rune, Gar, involves choice. It involves the rune. It involves a gift. Odin's chosen, but it doesn't necessarily have to pertain to the exact literal interpretation of mythology when we associate certain things with the rune. So there may be a choice you are making, a choice about a project you are undertaking. When we consider the opposite side of the Ragnarok characters in the final battle, we have to understand everything they really stand for. So Fenris is destruction. And as destruction, sometimes that has to precede creation. Sometimes you have to take away the old in order to make room for the new. And Jormungand is, as the Midgard serpent, he is an energy like the serpent of the subconscious. You know, people who meditate and in yoga history will talk about the Kundalini and that seed within us of life itself, that we have to rise up the tree trunk of our own spine in order to bring full consciousness to our brain, because our chakras are different centers where we experience different emotions, different ways of connecting with the world. So, like the root is our material security, and the sacral is our creation, our watery womb of creation, and the solar is what we will to bring into our life. How do other people see us? That's a big part of it. The solar contains a lot of facade, but like the light of the sun reflecting on the earth, we couldn't see the shadows without the light. We couldn't contrast the light if we had no shadows. Do you see? So we have to make choices, and these lower three centers are the ones that are often I'm going to call them bipolar, because when we come from the sacral up to the heart, this is where unity begins. What we bring our heart to, what we bring our throat to, a unilateral expression of our being, of our mind, of our creativity, of our capacity to see with the third eye, of our capacity to know our union with source through the crown chakra. So this comes as a rune of choices. And when I'm talking about the wolf of destruction, I'm comparing him to the action that we need to take to make a new chapter in our life, to have a new creation. And that often involves choices. Choice is a gift, the gift of what we want to plant in order to have a new beginning to our lives. And being a new year, that seems an appropriate place for me to leave this message today. So I wish you all many rune blessings and a wonderful week ahead. And if you ever wish to reach out to connect, please leave a comment in on one of these podcasts. I'm Susan. I'm saying good night.